Hey there, Pickle people! For the longest time growing up, I loved comic books. The wacky characters, the over-the-top storylines, the bright bold colours and the art style. I loved all of it. With the creation of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I saw some of my favourite characters come to the big screen, and in a couple of weeks I'll be treated to another outing from my favourite comic book hero, Spider-Man. Now, with all the excitement bubbling away surrounding this, I decided that it was finally time I take my first steps into the miniatures game Marvel Crisis Protocol. This isn't exactly a new game, the core set has been out for a couple of years already, and part of the reason that I've held off on this for so long is I wanted to wait and see what support for this game looked like after its initial release. A while back, I bought and painted a fair few of the Marvel models released by Night Models, and I was sad to see that game die off pretty quickly, so I didn't want to put more money down on another licensed game, only for that license to be taken away and the game to die off. 2 years later, however, and the game is still seeing regular releases of models and rules, so I figured that it was quite enough time waiting, and I decided to dive in. For now, I'm starting work on the core box, but you can be sure that I'm going to have plenty of stuff up on the channel in the future from future releases and expansions. Now, I've been doing the miniatures hobby for a while now, and in that time I've largely stuck with Games Workshop products. Recently I've been trying more and more alternative miniatures and games in an effort to try and broaden my horizons. Now, I was fairly impressed with how much stuff there was in the core box. I hadn't realised quite how much terrain especially there was included in this. I had a quick look through everything that came in the box, and I decided to start with some of my favourites: Spiderman, Dock, and the daily Bugle stand. Now, people that have been around the channel for a while will know that I absolutely hate building miniatures. One of the main reasons for this is the amount of cleanup most models seem to need. Between mould lines, bits of sprue left over when they're being cut away, and other issues, it takes a quick building process and makes it something of a chore. Now, I know that there's plenty of people out there that do love building, but I am not one of them. So when I started working on these models, I was pleasantly surprised that they didn't really require too much extra work. The sprues are designed in such a way as to minimise mould lines and stray cleanup areas. Now, the downside to this is that different parts of the models are made up of multiple smaller pieces, which are more often than not a little more fiddly than I'm used to from working on Games Workshop kits. Still, the kits do go together fairly easily once you sort of wrap your head around the style of the sculpts and around the design, and once you get into the flow. Now, I got the first few bits built up during a hobby hangout over on our Discord server. We run these every week, and it's a great way for me to chat with you guys, share hobby advice and answer questions, or just talk about whatever we fancy chatting about on the evening. If you ever fancy joining the Discord server, it's free to do so, and the link is down below in the description. I did build up a couple more models than I needed, but ultimately I didn't end up painting them. I will do though, so be sure to keep an eye on my Instagram for more Marvel stuff coming in the future. Once they were all together and the glue had dried, I gave all three of the models a prime using Vallejo Black Surface Primer, and then I hit them with a heavy zenithal highlight, first using a light grey and then finally with a white just on the tops. Now, I wanted to get some nice vibrant colours on these models, and I figured that the best way to do this was to use a largely lighter base coat, leaving the darker black undercoat just in the recesses and the shadows to act as natural shading once the colours were on top. Now, with the base coats all down and dry, it's finally time to start painting properly. For today's video, I'm going to continue to use the Army Air Paint range. Now, I've always had mixed feelings with the Army Painter paints in the past. Some of them have been absolutely amazing, and others have been a bit of a letdown. Now, the Air range, however, has totally won me over and is now the main paint range that I've been using for the last few weeks on all of my projects. I'm really impressed with the consistency of all the paints across the range. They're all thinned for the airbrush, they work first time, not having to mess about thinning stuff down any extra, and they also still work absolutely fine with a brush. It is the best of both worlds, and I really can't recommend them enough. Now, I started working on the terrain first of all, as I was pretty excited to get to work on such a fun piece. I've painted miniatures and stuff plenty of times, but terrain is something that I've never really done too much work on, so I was very eager to have a go, and it's got such a fantastic amount of detail in it, I really just couldn't wait to get stuck in. I gave all the wall panels a coat of a mid-green, letting the zenithal do most of the work here. Now this paint is already thinned for the airbrush, so a little trigger control on my part meant I was able to apply a nice thin coat to maximise the effect of the zenithal highlight underneath. Once that was on and dry, I mixed a yellow and a lighter green together as a highlight colour, and then applied this to the centre of each panel, letting the airbrush naturally blend away into the darker outer sections from the brighter sections in the middle. I did something similar with the windows here as well, applying a mid-blue all over the windows and then going back in with a little bit of black mixed in with the blue and applying that diagonally in the corners, leaving a nice gradient on all the glass sections, which I would come back later on and add some more detail to. Airbrushes are great for getting a large amount of space painted up, but details, at least for me, are still the territory of the brush. Now I filled out the black on the sign, making sure to get a nice even coat on there, and then I added all the details around the windows, such as the doors and the wall panels, all the sort of grey lining around those. I was really happy to see the piece start to come together with all these little details added in after the airbrushing stage. Next, I added a light grey followed by a white for the letters on the sign, again making sure that I got a nice even covering here. White is one of those colours that is always notorious to paint and get to cover nicely, but putting a grey down first really helps a lot and helps the process be a hell of a lot less painful. One of the final details I needed to do was the magazines and newspapers in the window. Now I was tempted to print out some tiny comic book covers and glue them on, but then I didn't. I may come back to this at some point in the future and add those on, but for now they just get the generic text in books on miniatures treatment, and by that I mean squiggly black lines. With the terrain painted up, I got to work on Spiderman and Dock. I had a lot of fun working on these two models, partly because the sculpts themselves were fun to paint, but also because this was my first time getting to use my latest piece of hobby equipment, the Grimm Gripp. Now this is a painting handle which uses magnets on the base, on the ball joint and on the top to allow full movement and access to all those awkward parts on models without having to do any weird hand gymnastics. Now I will admit that after years of using the Citadel handles and before that spray can lids, it did take a little bit of getting used to. It's a lot taller than the Citadel handles and I wasn't exactly sure how or where to hold it, and I did find myself just holding the hat at the top and just ignoring the handle completely for a while. Once I'd been using it for about an hour and the muscle memory had worn off, I did find it really comfortable to use, and I loved the functionality of the magnetic parts. If you'd like to pick one of these up for yourself or check them out, there's links down below the description for the UK and US stores. Please go and support them. This is an absolutely fantastic product, and the company themselves have been really supportive of both myself and plenty of other content creators out there. So go and check them out. For the painting itself, there's nothing out of the ordinary going on here with these two models. Nice bright colours, a few highlights and a few shadows here and there, and these guys were done. I thoroughly enjoyed working on something that wasn't a Necron for what feels like the first time in a long time. I'll definitely be doing more of these in the future. Marvel Crisis Protocol scratches that itch of painting individual character models from a medium that I have enjoyed since childhood. If you want to pick up any Marvel Crisis Protocol stuff, then make sure to check out the link down to Chaos Cards down below in the description and use the promo code Pickle for 5% off your order. That code is valid through till February 2022, and that's for 5% off your order. That code is Pickle all caps, and a massive thank you goes to Chaos Cards for sending me out this box and helping make this video possible. If you'd like to support the channel, make sure to check out all our links down below in the description or join our membership program right here on YouTube like all of these amazing people have done. If you want to get more involved with the Pickle Jar community, then make sure to check out the Discord too. Again, link for that down below in the description. That's all from me. I'll catch you in the next one, and until then, enjoy your hobby.